I love this portion of the show when we just go back in time and you can hear what someone said back then compared to what they're saying now. 4 years ago, President Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize, winning for his, and I quote here, extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation between peoples. Now, we're re-racking the tape to compare how he sounded then with how he sounds now.
We can't allow the differences between peoples to define the way that we see one another. There will be no negotiations over this. We strive to seek a world in which conflicts are resolved peacefully. They're holding the whole country hostage. Mutual interest and mutual respect. I will not negotiate over Congress's responsibility. We must all do our part to resolve those conflicts. We're not going to negotiate.
There is a consistent pattern, though, here. Throughout the years, he has always hated Fox News, so there is some consistency. Anyway, Hadley Heath says that the president really doesn't sound that peaceful, a little less than transparent. He does have a standard for dealing with one crisis versus another crisis. Peaceful overtures in one area, not so peaceful in domestic areas. What do you think that message is sending here?
I think many people, including people who have supported the president or even voted for him in the past, are disappointed with his lack of leadership now. His current approval rating at 37% because he's using inflamed rhetoric.
Yeah, but be careful, Hadley. I mean, Congress's approval ratings are at 5% or whatever, so it pops on both their heads. But I will agree with this much. There's a greater onus on the president, but continue.
Well, when he started out as a politician, at least when he came to the national scene in 2008 and 2009 as a young president, he was the person bringing the message of hope and change for Washington, that Washington wouldn't be business as usual. And now we see there's really the same things happening in Washington as always, disagreement with a lack of leadership.
You know, I always wonder, when you make overtures abroad, you've got to be very consistent on overtures, period. That if you're going to be, let's say, a peacemaker, that's going to be the stamp and your sort of DNA, no matter what you do. You are always trying to reach out to the other side. Abe Lincoln comes to mind on that. George Washington comes to mind on that. You could even argue that, you know, John Kennedy, the way he would deal with some of these domestic issues and trying to be very forthright and consistent in his strategy as he was with dealing with the Soviets. But very inconsistent with this president thus far.
Absolutely. And if I had some words for the president, I would encourage him just to consider his legacy. You mentioned some great American presidents from the past. In the future, when we look back at this moment in time, will we remember this president as someone who could broker a deal, someone who does understand that Americans elect different representatives because Americans have different values? Or will he be the person that oversaw a stalemate that went on for far too long because of his failure to bring people together?
Well put. Hadley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, you see what's going on at Starbucks these days? You buy someone a cup of coffee, you get a free cup of coffee for yourself. It's Starbucks' way of getting a message to Congress.